December, Saturday. I didn't even think that the stuff that happened today was even possible. It was a weekend. So Riley came over to my house to play the new Twisted Wizard 2. Everything was going great until Manny came over, pulled out the game disc and snapped it in half. I didn't even think that Manny knew how to take out the disc in the first place. But that wasn't even the worst part. When Mom came to us and asked what was going on, and after me and Riley explained what happened, Mom said this. "Oh, come on, Greg. He's only 3. I couldn't believe it. That kid had broken my brand new Twisted Wizard disc that I'd saved up for 2 whole months. And Mom was signing with him? Of course. But then at that moment, we heard screaming and explosions. Mom looked out the window and Manny trailed after her. Then Manny turned around to us with the snap disc still in his hand and said, "I'm only 3. When the most horrifying thing happened. A giant spiked rod crashed in through the window and stabbed Manny in the spine. Mom. Manny! Ah! All of us started screaming as the rod slowly dragged Manny's blood-covered body through the sharp, broken glass out the window and into the snow. Mom started crying and jumped through the window to try and save Manny. A few seconds later, we heard a squelching sound and Mom's crying was replaced with an ugly hissing and clicking sound. I couldn't believe it. Mom and Manny were dead. Then 2 bloody spiked rods slowly started to come through the window. I looked over to Riley. He wasn't there, but I saw him running up the stairs. Then I saw more rods come through the windows. But then I realized they were not rods, but legs. And then an ugly head came to view. Wow. The thing slowly walked towards me, making a hissing sound. It moved its head towards me and just stared. I didn't move. I couldn't move. It started to make a low growl at me as it raised one of its legs, preparing to stab me like it did with Mom and Manny. I was trembling with fear when I saw half of the game disc that Manny had broken. I reached out, grabbed it, and I stabbed the creature in its neck. It started to make a weird sound and fell backwards. I took the chance and ran. The thing got up and started to chase after me. I ran to the kitchen and I tripped. I fell into a cupboard as I sat there. The creature was charging at me, hissing louder than ever. It jumped over the kitchen table while holding up its leg, preparing to stab me. I thought it was the end, but as it was jumping, its head exploded mid-air. I was covered in black gooey stuff leaking from its head, and the thing's body fell on me. I looked over and saw both Rodrick and Riley holding shotguns. Rodrick got the thing's body off me while Riley held me up. He asked me if I was straight and if I was hurt. I checked for any injuries and there was none, but my back was kinda hurt from slamming into the kitchen cupboard. I told him I was fine and only my back hurt a little bit. Riley told me that he ran to alert Rodrick and he hadn't ran away and left me to die. Rodrick told me to clean myself up and pack things that I need and that we were going to leave the house. I asked him what was going on, but he said that he would explain later. So I quickly took a shower, still dazed from what happened, and began packing. Even though Rodrick told me to only pack the things I need, I went a little overboard. I went downstairs and saw Rodrick taking medical supplies, and when he saw me, he nodded to a shotgun on the table. I walked over to the table and took the shotgun, and he told me he would teach me later. I put the shotgun in the bag with its tip sticking out, asked Rodrick where he had gotten it from, and he said that he would tell me later. Then I suddenly realised that I hadn't seen Dad since morning. So I asked Rodrick where he was. He's away on a business trip, remember? That made me feel a lot better. At least he was away from this nonsense. Screaming from outside had not stopped. I looked out the window and I saw more of those things run by, mauling my neighbours to death. Rodrick asked me where Mom and Manny were. And that's when I realised that Rodrick didn't know that they were dead. I broke the news to him. He got silent. Then, Riley ran into the room and he told us that we had to go to because there were more of those things outside. Riley's voice seemed to snap Rodrick out of his trance. I asked him if he was fine and he said yes. He told me to get to his van in the garage and put all the stuff in there. Told him that it was okay to be sad. And when I said that, he had tears in his eyes. He told me that he thought Manny was an annoying little squirt and was not sad of his death. And Mom only cared about him anyway. Rodrick told me that he didn't actually feel loved by her. I felt like she was a complete stranger to him. But he was still sad. Then, Riley came to us again and said that we had to go. So, we rushed out the garage door and put all of our stuff in the van. Riley had packed food and some winter gear. I had packed my stuff, sleeping bags, flashlights, a tent, lots of camping supplies, baby wipes, and a ton of bug spray. Rodrick brought his stuff, first aid kits and farming supplies. I asked him what the farming supplies were for. He told me that if this is the end of the world, he might need to grow our own food. I told him this was not the apocalypse or anything. He just looked at me. I told him I had no idea what the heck was going on, and he told me that this was the beginning of the end, and the monsters were all over the world. Then, Riley asked us to get in, and me and Rodrick got in front of the van, while Riley got in the back to watch our stuff. I asked Rodrick where we would go, and he said that we would go to Riley's house to grab more supplies. But when we got out of the garage, a monster jumped on our roof and tried to ball its way through it. Rodrick reacted quickly and put the gear in reverse and sped back into the garage, knocking the creature onto the driveway. Rodrick then drove over the thing, making a horrible crunching noise as it did so. Anyway, we were headed to Riley's house to get some supplies now, and the journey was horrifying. There were screaming people and monsters everywhere. Houses were on fire, and the streets were covered in blood and torn apart bodies. I even saw Fregley's body. A truly horrible sight. I was happy that Riley didn't have to see any of this as he was in the back, because I don't think he could handle this. We reached Riley's house and got out of Rodrick's van. We took our weapons just in case and locked the van. Rodrick told us to take all the supplies we can get, and told me to help him get more food from Riley's kitchen. We got in the house and looked for Riley's parents, but it was abandoned. Riley was very sad, but I cheered him up by telling him that they probably were safe in their car. Greg, do you think they're dead? I told him that wasn't what I meant, and they were safe if they escaped from the house and were in their car. That answer seemed to cheer him up. I asked him to help take the supplies and to pack his stuff quick. I then went into the kitchen to help Rodrick when we suddenly heard a noise at the front door. We looked out, and I couldn't believe what I saw.